All right, here we go. I'm Matt Urbanski with Team RunRun, and today I get the pleasure of speaking with Alicia Jenkins-Browder, a coach with Team RunRun and an amazing runner, someone with an amazing story. She's a Boston qualifier. She's also a podium Moab 240, finishing other 200 milers, and lots of other cool things. And her runners love her. She's got amazing reviews on Team RunRun. You can check her out. But I just want to jump in and get started. But first, Alicia, thanks so much for chatting with me today.
Yeah, of course. I'm looking forward to chatting with you and talking about, I don't know, whatever kind of questions you got for me. I'm ready.
Yes, the idea is we want to help runners and coaches on Team Run Run and anywhere learn from some of your experiences
hmm
through your running journey and the things you've done with your life. I think there's some really impressive stories and some things that people can really learn from. So let's just dive in. I have a question to start with, though. It's not super deep, but it's more like it's called the never DNF at night. I heard about this from one of your athletes and I thought, this sounds like a really good idea. So can you tell me about the never DNF at night rule and like why you use it and how you came up with it?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know if necessarily like I kind of came up with it. It kind of just happened to me when I was running Cocodona 250 last year. Um, it was the second night. I was not feeling good. I hadn't eaten um enough food. I was 130 miles into a 250-mile race, and I got into the aid station where there was a car waiting for me, and I told my crew chief that I was done. I was like, I don't want to keep going. I'm tired. I don't feel good. I don't think I can finish. I'm just gonna quit. And being a good crew chief, she didn't even entertain the idea of quitting. She just told me to eat some food, and I didn't want to eat food. So I said no. And she just kept bringing me food, just setting it next to me. And then she said, okay, we'll take a nap and we'll see how you're feeling. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'll take a nap. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to quit. And then woke up an hour later. She's like, how are you feeling? I go, I don't know, not feeling great. She's like, well, let's just sleep a little bit more. So slept, woke up, I think another maybe hour later. And then I ate some of the snacks that were next to me. I see him sitting there, eat the snacks. And I look over at her. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll keep going. Um, so it it works. Like during the nighttime, it's a hard time during a race. I mean, your body's telling you you're supposed to be sleeping. It's dark. Your circadian rhythms are telling you like naturally, biologically, your body's like ready to go to sleep. So that's why you're gonna be feeling a little bit low where you can't see anything. So you're just kind of focused on what's in front of you. Um, so yeah, if you want to quit, just hopefully you have a good crew chief or somebody there that can also you can tell them this to before you race, because when you're racing, um, usually you're not thinking straight or thinking super clear if you're into this, during the nighttime of a long race. Um, so tell them, and then yeah, just sit down, relax, take a nap, and then kind of just reset yourself. My crew chief, Sabrina, who was creaming at that race when she didn't let me quit, she said she imagined like I was a computer, that she was turning off, turning back on. And that when I woke up from the first nap, she goes, we turned you off, turned you back on. Yeah, you still weren't good. So we just turned you off again, turn it back on. So kind of just do like a hard reset. I like that analogy. So that's, yeah, what I'll tell my runners now too. Yeah, don't DNF at night. I mean, unless you're chasing cutoffs and you don't have a choice, but usually you won't be chasing cutoffs too much, and just take that rest that you need and kind of reassess and see how you feel. Usually, if you're feeling like you want to quit, it's either like you're hungry, you need some caffeine, or you need like a little nap. I don't know. It's like you're a toddler, basically.
Yeah. And if you can just sort of step back from the situation a little bit and like let
Mm-hmm.
things calm,
Mm-hmm.
then you can see clearly, at least clear enough to
Mm-hmm.
know, no, I don't want to quit. I've put a lot into this. Like let's keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. And just like you said, take that step back and think, and then remembering your why. I always tell all my runners, and any race distance, whether it's from runners that are running a 5K or a 200 miler. Like you got to have that why, because running a race, it's not easy, and they're going to have those low moments. Like I said, even if it is a shorter distance race, it's going to be hard. So having that why to remind yourself why you're doing this, why you're torturing yourself or putting yourself through this challenge to push forward is very helpful. And I always tell people, some people's whys are like, like super deep, meaningful. That's great. But they don't have to be super deep or meaningful. It could be as simple as like, man, that's a really cool medal and I like really want that medal. Like it could be something simple. So you don't have to like overthink it. It just has to be meaningful to you to finish. Yeah.
I like it. Along these lines, like you mentioned, like being able to sort of take a step back and assess the situation in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
What's your sort of like your standard sort of self-talk, the stuff you think about during a race? Like, do you have any sort of mantras or ways that you keep yourself in a certain frame of mind? Like, how do you talk to yourself in your head when you're out doing big runs?
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, I had a few mantras in certain races. Some of the like, if I'm running a half marathon or a marathon, my mantra has always been like, okay, the faster you run, the faster you're done, because that works really well because it's a relatively shorter race compared to the 50 milers, hundreds, 200s. The 200s, hundreds, probably not a great mantra. But those ones, sometimes the mantras just kind of come to me mid-race, or it'll be a song that I've listened to like on my training runs or something. What was the last race I did? Badger Mountain 50 mile and 55K. I think it's a Queen song, where it just kept saying over. I kept saying the like lyric in my head over and over. It's just one part. Don't stop me, I'm having a good time. I just kept singing that over and over, and it was stuck in my head for like 50 miles, but it worked, and it's a positive saying too. So I find that if you find yourself having a negative thought, like looking forward and seeing like, oh, that's such a big hill, like, oh my God, and you have that negative thought, try to reframe it with like, okay, I'm strong, like stay strong on the uphills, like, so just, yeah, reframe it, making it a positive. Like, there's some routes in my town that when I was younger running, I called this hill Stupid Hill because I just really hated this stupid hill. And just like a couple years ago, I decided every time I got to that hill, like before I get to it, I'd think, oh, here comes that stupid hill, that stupid hill. And like that negative thought just made it like you dread it, and it made it always super hard. So I decided to rename it. Like I use the term Strong Hill. I'm like, okay, Strong Hill. I'm like, we got to reframe that, make it something positive. And it's such a simple thing, but it makes a huge difference. So I think just being okay when you have those like negative thoughts, like they're going to come, they're going to happen. But if you can reframe them and then maybe kind of make your own mantra out of that, and that's helpful. So yeah, not one specific mantra, but they just kind of come to me during the race, whatever it is I need, right?
But it sounds like what you need is something that keeps you generally in a positive frame of mind, is what you're
Yes.
saying.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Have you had any times in any of your big races where it was really hard to get the negative thoughts out?
Um,
And maybe you
I'm,
didn't get out of
yeah.
them, or maybe like it took a while and you found your way out. I don't know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've had some of those. I mean, I've had DNFs in my races where like I
Mm-hmm.
just couldn't get out of it, and I told myself I didn't care, and I just stopped. Right, like I didn't get out
Mm-hmm.
of the negative track. I don't know. So have you had any of those kind of
Yeah.
experiences?
I'd say, I mean, there have been times, I mean, honestly, that one that I just told you about at Cocodona was probably, I think, the most negative I've ever had at a race. And I've never wanted to DNF like that at a race where I said like, I'm done. I don't think I've ever said that at a race. I've like thought it, but never said it out loud to somebody. Um, so I think the helpful thing for me getting out of that was having my crew and pacers, because I don't think if they weren't there, I probably, actually, I don't know what I would have done, but I might have, been like, okay, yep, I'm done. Like, I don't want to go anymore. Um, so yeah, I think it's tough, but just knowing if you just keep going one step at a time. And I think preparing yourself for those lows too. Like I tell a lot of my runners that are doing these long distances, the hundreds, 200s, I tell them like, be prepared to have some like lows. Like it's probably going to happen. Or I'll tell them it will happen. And then if it doesn't, I'm like, awesome, like cool. That's even better. But if you're prepared for it and you're ready for it, and I tell them they can, it can last hours. It could last like 2 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. It could be a low, but just keep moving, keep focusing on what you need to do. Yeah. And then again, thinking about that, remembering that why always helps too. And like you said, sometimes you're like, you've been in it and there's nothing that helps. And I mean, the only option is to keep moving forward. Um, I've had times where I wanted to quit in the middle of a race, but I thought, oh, I'm just so tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. But I was in the middle of the woods and I was like, well, if I quit here, they're going to call like search and rescue to come get me. Search and rescue is going to come and they're going to see that I can walk and they're going to make me walk out anyways. So I might as well just keep going because then otherwise I just have to sit here and wait longer for them to come to tell me just to keep moving. So, yeah, I don't know. Thinking those worst case scenarios.
There's like again, there's this theme of being able to sort of like step back from the situation and be like,
Yeah.
yes, all I want to do is stop and lay down on the ground and not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if I do that, then like all these other things, like you're able to sort of
Yeah.
like not just you can have your pity party probably, but like
Yep. Yeah.
also know that I got to think about this a little bit because there's got to be
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, like it's okay to have a pity party. I've had a friend once who was texting us during a race and she's like, oh, I'm not doing good. And we're like, okay, like it's fine to have a pity party. Like give yourself like a 3-minute pity party. And then after that, like, then it's over. Then you're done. You did it. Now keep going. So like sometimes you can give yourself that time, like to feel those emotions and then get them out and be like, okay, did that. Now we got to keep going.
What's cool about this is I feel like it's applicable whether you're someone at your level doing 250 miles
Mm-hmm.
or it's someone who is just trying to run their first 5Ks without walking.
Mm-hmm.
Like in their head, they're like, all I want to do is stop. I don't want to run
Mm-hmm.
anymore. But if they can find ways to sort of like stay positive, keep themselves going, like know
Mm-hmm.
that it's probably going to be better if they just keep going, they'll be done sooner, whatever, like figure
Mm-hmm.
out the mental tricks. Like it's this, I think it's the same sort of recipe. Um, have you always been like, were you, I want to think about sort of this sort of like self-awareness
Mm-hmm.
or ability to step back and see a situation for what it is and solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Was it something that you like got good at from practicing, or have you like been that way your whole life? Like, how did you, when you can do a
Yeah.
250-mile race, you are good at solving problems and like
Mm-hmm.
overcoming adversity and being adaptable. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did you get good at that?
Um, I
Or
think
were you
growing
just
up,
born that way?
well, I think growing up, I'm a very stubborn person. And I love an underdog story. Like I love it. My best motivation is when people tell me I can't do something. I want to prove them wrong. Like I played rec league volleyball and I always get so nervous before I serve. And if my team's like, good job, go Alicia, you're gonna do great, I like always mess up my serve. So I told them, like, I need you guys to tell me like, you guys, you can't hit it over the net to I don't know. That works for me. But yeah, the like problem solving, adapting, um, that just kind of I've practiced that and gotten better at that. I used to be a little bit more negative, um, and I don't know, I didn't like how that was making me feel. And then just learning more about in physical therapy assistant school, how the brain works and how the brain is plastic and you can change the brain, you can change your thought patterns, how that all works. And like, okay, well, I guess okay, that makes sense like science wise. So I think I can do that. Um, and just yeah, learning that you can change your thought patterns and how the brain is like, you've got this one pathway that your brain tells yourself, I'm so bad, I'm negative, I'm negative. And it's like, I imagine like a trail, like it's the trail that's like super nice and well maintained, and there's no roots or rocks, no bushes. So that's why your thought patterns always go down that trail because it's the easiest one. And then here's the one that tells you like you can do this, you're good. But it's this other trail that's like you can't even see the trail. It's covered in nettles or poison oak. It's got all these roots and rocks, and it just needs a little bit more work. So like when your brain starts going down that like easy negative trail, you have to like tell yourself like, nope, let's go this way. And then you start kind of like maintaining that new pathway in your brain, that new trail, and making that one like doing the work, taking away the nettles, clearing the rocks out of the way. And then that old trail, the negative mindset, starts to get like overgrown. Um, so just knowing that you can change that was super helpful. And knowing that's okay to have those kind of thoughts as well. Like they're going to happen, but you can change them. So that's kind of been my lesson in adaptability. And then practicing it and realizing that it does actually work. Um, I don't know, for a while back, there were all these like memes or TikToks out there about these people. They're like videos of them going out like, I'm going out from, I don't feel good, but I'm going out for my stupid mental health walk or whatever, make myself feel better. Sometimes you just got to make yourself do the thing if you don't feel like it, and makes you feel a little bit better. Um, So yeah, it's just something that I've been practicing probably for the last 8 years that I've been like really seriously, um, consistently training. Yeah, and you can get better at it. You just have to do it, practice it, basically.
So maybe there's like a little bit of element of you were born with this stubbornness
Hmm.
and underdog feeling that's going to make you like
Yeah.
go for it. But then there's also this knowledge piece that's like, okay, I know I can alter the ship's course in some way,
Hmm.
but ultimately it takes practice. I bet like 8 years ago, you couldn't have
Hmm.
just gone out and done, you know, Cocodona 250 and had
No.
the same
Yeah.
mental strength and abilities that you had when you did
Hmm.
it more
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah. And that's part of, I mean, even just daily training, putting yourself in those situations too, where things are challenging and hard, and then also have that knowledge that, okay, well, I did that run that didn't go well, but I finished it. And that's what I just like to tell my athletes too, is like, not most of your runs, I call them, they're just going to be like meh runs. Like, okay, I did it. Wasn't bad, wasn't great. And then you're gonna have workouts that are just like, oh God, that like was really hard. I just didn't feel good. That just really sucked. And then occasionally you'll get those like, oh my God, I totally nailed that workout really good. Cause like in training, you're tired a lot of the time. So just knowing that you put in the work and doing the consistency is super important. Yeah, for helping you do those hard things.
Yeah, you show up, you do the work, and that
Hmm.
helps you when you're out there in the middle of the night at mile 187 at a low point. You're like,
Yeah.
you know how to show up when you don't want to, and that helps.
Hmm. Yes, exactly.
Very cool. So I feel like a good segue here is when we talk about training and showing up every day. Um, like knowing your body, recovering, like knowing when to go out and push yourself, but also
Hmm.
some days knowing maybe I should step back today. Like how do you go through you can answer this one of two ways. You can answer about like for yourself, like how do you know
Hmm.
like, oh, today I just need to grind through this one, or maybe I need to step back and like take a rest day. Or
Hmm.
another way you could say is how would you teach that to your athletes that you coach? I
Hmm.
think it's a very valuable skill.
It is. And actually, like I was just messaging an athlete before this that like she needs to like focus on like resting is going to be your training this week because she's been burnt out, not just with running, but just life in general. There's been a lot of life things that have happened, and like she had a fall, hurt her knee, and then she wasn't supposed to run, so she's trying to run, then she like crashed on her bike. So like just all these things happened, and I feel like a lot of times I'm telling people that it's okay to rest. And I put it in their training plan. Like today, your training is to take a nap and go to bed earlier and sleep. Um, Recovery is like or especially sleep is one of the, I don't know, I don't want to say easiest because there's a lot of people that's like very, very busy. It's hard to try and get the right amount of sleep, but it's not something you have to go out and buy, or it's not this like fancy tool that you need. It's something that everybody has available to them, and trying to sleep or get in naps to recover. So knowing when is a time when you should push and grind or not push and grind. Um, it's that's a hard balance for people, especially when you have a coach that like your training plan says this today. It says like run 5 miles, and you're like, God, I don't feel like running 5 miles. I try to think about what's the reason why do I not feel like running? Am I like just feeling really sleepy? I check my sleep because most of our watches these days monitor how much sleep you get. So I'll go and look and be like, oh yeah, I've only been averaging 6 hours of sleep this week instead of 8. Like maybe I should take a nap instead of going out for that run. Because doing that run, the purpose of the run is make me like a better runner, but that's only going to make me more tired. So I try and tell people to think about what is the purpose of the run, and is going to do this run going to actually like, is it going to make you like way more tired, or is it actually going to help you? And if people aren't sure, especially my runners, that's where I tell them like, just text me, send me a message. If you're not feeling good, like I'll let you know either like, yeah, you sound like you need to rest and let's skip the run today. Or like, no, are you just being lazy today? I'm like, I'll tell you one way or the other. Because sometimes it's hard to gauge. And I feel like a lot of us runners, a lot of us are type A and want to do our runs. So sometimes we just need that person to say, it's okay to take a nap. And that's the benefit of having a coach is, if you were scheduled to do a workout that day, I'm like, okay, you're going to take today off, and then we'll just move that workout to next week, or, 2 days from now. And I want you to sleep today so you can like have a productive workout instead of doing the workout and like having it not be productive and having it just stress your body and wreck your body even more. Um, so yeah, I think and sometimes I even need that with my own coach. Where there's a run scheduled and I'm like, oh God, I'm not feeling good. So I'll just be able to text her and be like, well, I'm not feeling good today. Should I run? Should I not run? And she's like, yeah, no, rest. Like I know, like as a coach myself, I know what I would tell my runner, but
Right.
I don't know why it's hard for me to take that advice. So I'd go to my coach. I'm like, I know what she's going to say, but I just need the okay to do it. So sometimes I feel like that's what I love having a coach, and that's what I can be, for athletes too, is just that person that you can just message when you just need that okay.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's funny. I have a coach as well, and it's the kind of thing I often people will ask me like, "You're a coach. Why do you have a coach?" There's
Mm-hmm.
so many good reasons to have a coach, and that
Mm-hmm.
that thing you said there is a big part of it. A lot of us say it's on the training plan. I'm going to make it happen,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it's not even just saying it's okay to not do it. Because if someone says it's okay to not do it, I'm still probably going to do it. But my
Yeah.
coach would be like, "No, don't do it today. Your plan is to rest." And
Yeah.
it makes a big difference. It over
Mm-hmm.
the long run, you need that to I think to be able to keep showing up and putting in the work.
Exactly. And then I tell people too, like, yeah, if you're missing like all of your runs, then that's something we got to rethink. But if it's just
Right.
you miss one recovery run, like, and you've been consistent, like, look back at all your training, like, missing that one recovery run, or even if it's a workout and you've done all the other workouts, missing one workout is not going to make you not be able to finish your race. One workout out of, the hundreds you've already done over the year. But for some reason, we always think like, oh my God, if I don't do that, it's going to be the end of the world. Um, which I don't know. I think it's a runner thing or a human thing, but that's what the coaches were all here for, to help you. Yeah, in that way.
It's refreshing to hear someone who does 250-mile runs and is known for being tough. Like, no,
Hmm.
some days you should take a nap, and I should take a
Hmm.
nap. Like
Yeah,
that's the way it works.
it
And
is. Yeah.
it's not always no, you just go, go, go. It's
Hmm.
refreshing. I think we should all, it's a good reminder for all of us.
Yeah, yeah. And there are days I'll come home and yeah, where I've just been stressed in life too. So not just running. Like if you have a lot going on in your life, that's where I'll ask people when they're like, God, today hasn't been feeling good. I'm like, well, what's going on like in your life? How's work? How's family? How's all this? And they're like, oh yeah, work's been really crazy and blah blah blah. And I'm like, they didn't tell me that, but I'm like, something's off. And then they say these things, and then I'm like, did you listen to all those things that you just said? Like, there's a lot of stress. I know it's like sometimes it's good stress too. Like it's great things like maybe got a promotion or start a new job or, or you're moving, but all those stressors add up. So I like to remind people that's another kind of like stepping back and reflecting, like, why am I feeling like I don't want to run? Kind of think about what's going on in your life. And if there's a lot of those things going on, then yeah, maybe it's better just to take a rest day because there's just so much going on and let your body um, recover a little bit.
Good. So we know rest days are important,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, you're also known, and I've talked to some of your athletes about this, you're known for your toughness.
Mm-hmm.
And so some days you show up, you put in the work most of the,
Yes.
when
Yeah.
it needs to be done. I have this quote that I think was great. It basically says, one of your athletes says, you, Alicia, are unique in this way. You're lighthearted and joking in style. You'd never imagine how tough, focused, and competitive she is on the inside. I can see
Mm-hmm.
someone looking at her with her sparkly hat, unicorn socks, and otherwise non-serious vibe at the start line and failing to comprehend how formidable of a competitor she will be at mile 187.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you find that balance between like keeping it cool, having a nice positive vibe, but also like being someone who gets on podiums and like is
Mm-hmm.
racing these big races? Like where I don't know how talk about this about how that works.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, like I've always been competitive. Like I don't like losing. I want to win. Um, but also I want to enjoy the journey and have a fun time. So I think balancing it out with like joking and embracing like, yeah, wearing having my sparkly hat and unicorns and wearing unicorn sparkly tattoos, it helps keep it fun, um, and not only about the result. Because especially in these long races, like anybody who finishes, I mean, well, any race, but especially like the 200s, anybody that finishes, it is so hard. I think people that haven't done 200s kind of think they have an idea, or they're like, oh, well, it's just you're just walking. That's not that hard. It's really hard to walk that long and not sleep and keep moving. Um, so yeah, being able to not only focus on the result. I think that's where having the lightheartedness and sparkles and all that kind of stuff, keeping it fun helps me balance it all. Like it's okay, yeah, I want to get on the podium, and yeah, I would love to win, uh, but that's not the end all be all. So remembering why I'm out there doing it and enjoying the journey while staying focused, and just focusing on yourself too. Like you can be competitive with other people where maybe you're someone that is fighting for a podium spot. But even if you're somebody that's like, God, I'll never win this race, but you can still be competitive with yourself and be like, wow, I've never gone this far, and like use that as motivation to get into that competitive spirit. Or if there's one person ahead of you and you're struggling, like, okay, I just really want to beat, I don't know, that red pack person, which that's how I name people in races that are ahead of me. I'm like, whatever they're wearing, pink shirt girl, red pack guy. Like, oh, I gotta beat that red pack guy. Um, and using that as some extra motivation to keep going. So yeah, like I said, doesn't have to, you can be competitive without like having a top finish and use that to push yourself forward. Um, and then yeah, balance it out with whatever kind of fun things. I like bad dad jokes, like music. Keep it keep it fun. So I think
Yeah.
it's that balance is helpful.
I think this is a helpful point to talk about with people who are like not as like they haven't raced as long a career as you
Mm-hmm.
have, is this idea of the journey, the process
Yes.
versus the idea of like the outcome, like what's my time, what's my place. um
Mm-hmm.
Speak to that a little bit and how you think about it when you race.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I like to give to my runners too, is just before a race, maybe a week or a month before their race, I like to send them like a goal sheet. and it talks about those outcome goals versus those process goals, and performance goals. Whereas the outcome goal is, yeah, like I want to be like top 5, or I want to finish in this certain time. But if you only think about that, then if you don't get that, then it's like, oh, negative, like not feeling good. I didn't get my goal. So I tell people to focus on the process goals, which is like things you can control that are easy to control. Like, okay, if you're running a marathon, you're going to have a gel every 30 minutes and do that. So that way, if you do that during the race, and if you do those things, your process goals during the race, then that's going to lead you to being successful towards your outcome goal. And then even if you do those things, you don't hit your outcome goal, you still nailed all your process goals. So it's not like you failed, you still were successful. And then speaking onto like just the process of training, like learning to love the process of training, because the race is, you train for the race for, I don't know, if it's a half marathon, it could be, 12 weeks, 18 weeks for a marathon, a whole year for a 200. Like you put in all these hours of training, of either getting up early, um, getting it done during lunch, and just working so hard, um, that like when you're in the race, and this is another point, like if you're having a load too, just remembering all that hard work that you put in. Um, and then also learning, like you should enjoy most of your runs too. So like people always talk about learning to enjoy the process. I know it's cliche, but it's so it's so true. Like why are you spending all this time doing this thing if you don't enjoy it? Um, and so ways that I like, if I'm struggling, maybe not enjoying runs, how I'll make myself enjoy them more is either by like picking a new route. Maybe you run the same route every single day, but maybe run the route backwards. Or picking a new trail to run on. Where I live, we're lucky enough to have like just so many really pretty trails. And that's honestly some weekends where I have a long run that's like 4 hours. I'm like, oh, I got to go run for like 4 hours, but I'll just make a new route that I haven't done, something pretty to distract me. Um, or maybe you don't have access to that. Sometimes it's, I don't know, a new snack or a podcast that like I really want to listen to, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to save that for my run. Um, or an outfit. I don't know. Sometimes I get new clothes or a new pair of shoes. So I don't know, there's just so many things that you can use to help you enjoy the process of training more. Um, and knowing that it's okay, there might be days where it's just like a day where you don't enjoy it, but I'd say you should enjoy the majority of your training, and knowing that's okay, that some days are just not going to be as enjoyable as others, and you still got to go out there and do the work. But yeah, just finding those ways to make yourself enjoy the process. You're going to be a happier runner. You're going to run longer. Um, yeah, so
You're probably going to be more successful with your performance goals and those outcome goals because
definitely.
you are able to be more consistent and put in the work. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's even like studies that say that if you feel good about the training you're doing, the actual like physical outcomes are better. So there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely reason to focus on enjoying the process, even if it sounds cliche. So I
Exactly.
totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
You've been like public about your sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's on your coaching profile. I've seen you post about it on social media. It's something that you don't shy away from
Mm-hmm.
talking about. How does that like impact your running? How does it play into the whole like journey you've had in the last, we'll call it 8 years of like
Mm-hmm.
getting more and more serious about
Mm-hmm.
your running career? Like how do
Yeah.
they, yeah, just tell us a
I
little about how
mean,
that all plays together.
they definitely go hand in hand, because before I quit drinking, I ran a little bit, but not seriously. I didn't really train very well. I did a marathon, but didn't really train for it. And it was great. I did it, but it wasn't like super fun because it was really hard because I didn't train. So training is much better than not training. Um, but yeah, when I quit drinking, I needed something to else. Um, because I didn't have any friends at that point. I'd just broken up with my boyfriend who was also an alcoholic. And I was like, God, like I was so unhappy with who I was, didn't like how I looked, wasn't eating well. And I was like, you know what? I always had this goal of wanting to qualify for the Boston Marathon. And my time that I needed was like so far off my marathon time that I had run. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try. Maybe it's a long shot goal, but I don't care. I'm gonna try for it and see what I can do. If I don't hit it, that's fine. But I just needed a goal. Um, so I just, took those first few steps of getting back into running. My 3 mile run that I went out on that day was like really hard. I had to walk a lot. Um, but I just kept moving. And I mean, running and like sobriety, they're so similar. Like sobriety is saying is like one day at a time. Running, it's like one step at a time, one little step. And then all of a sudden, like I'm 8 years sober now, which is like, I don't know, I've been on my phone 3,000 something days. Which when I first quit, it's like, man, I can't even think of like 30 days, 60 days, feels like forever. And those days slowly add up, as do like those steps in a race. So sometimes I'll think about that when I'm racing, like, you just keep moving forward. That's the only option. Um, and I've had times in races too where I'm feeling down, and I made this running a playlist all with all these like songs about sobriety and recovery that I've listened to. So I'll put that on or during a race and listen to that, and that's just my reminder of like kind of how far I've come in this journey. So yeah, I'd say like my sobriety and running, they're both like integral, you know, to each other. Like if I didn't have running, it would have been harder to stay sober. Um, but if I couldn't run, I don't know, I'd find something else. But yeah, they just go so well hand in hand. And you run a lot better when you don't drink alcohol. Um, which I've had a few runners recently that like don't have like negative issues with alcohol, but they're like, I'm just gonna try a dry January. And they're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Um, and I mean, maybe they would have like one drink a night, or like it'd be a weekend, and they'd have like a couple drinks, they'd have to go out for a long run. They're like, wow, I just feel so much better without it. So, I mean, not that I don't think everybody needs to be sober. You do you. If it's an issue, if it's making your life worse, then I'd say like, yeah, maybe try not drinking. But if it's helping your life and you feel good, like, okay, that's fine. But yeah, interesting to see kind of a lot of runners shift towards like not drinking just because it does make you like feel a lot better. I
Yeah.
think, and training is a lot better, sleep's better, everything's better.
I mean, I think about like that feeling of like getting up on a Saturday or Sunday morning and knowing you have a 4 to 6 hour run to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's already hard enough. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to feel kind of hungover too, and then try and get yourself out the door to go get started.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes I used like I got it being like I did so many things super hungover. I ran a race once, a 7 mile race where I was like still drunk from the night before, and like I took a shot before the race, and it was like I did it, but it wasn't fun. It was miserable. But in my mind, I'm like, when I'm doing these long races, I'm like, well, if I could do that stuff super hungover, I can do this race. I feel like it was almost like good ultra training, just I don't know, doing things really hungover and feeling like crap and terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe one way to bring this back to like make it really
Mm-hmm.
relatable to people that are
Mm-hmm.
newer in their running journey is like,
Mm-hmm.
so you're just getting started. You don't think about day 3,000 and like
Mm-mm.
how good you're gonna be. You got to think about the day that you're in and the run that
Mm-hmm.
you're on and like really stay present. That's what it sounds like it is important with sobriety, and it's super important
Yes.
with running and racing.
Yeah, just yeah, staying in the moment, one day at a time. Focus on that one day at a time. Because if you keep doing, you know, the best thing for that day, you're gonna be a better person in the future or in your running career. So just focus on each day. Consistency pays off. and it helps to just stay in the present moment. It can be overwhelming when you think of like, oh my God, that race, I'm never gonna be able to run a marathon, and if that's your goal and your long run is starting out at like 4 miles, like, God, I can't go 4 miles. How can I do that? And you just do it. And then the next week, you're like, maybe it'll be 5 miles. And you're like, okay, well, last week I went 4 miles. It's only one more mile. I can do that. So just, that literally one step at a time, day by day. And then what I love too, when sometimes people are feeling, maybe they're feeling like, oh, I've been putting in all this work and I'm still like far away from the marathon. Maybe they started at 4 miles, but they're up to like a half marathon at this point. And they're running a half marathon, like, God, I still can't imagine like running 26 miles. That's so far away. But that's where I tell them, like, okay, I want you to look backwards 2 weeks and look at where you were 2 weeks ago. And then they're like, oh yeah, like 4 miles used to be really hard, but now I just go out for a 13-mile run, like it's nothing, like it's easy. Um, so I think it's good to stop and reflect, not only like focusing on the present, but also look back at how far you've already come. And when runners are feeling, maybe they have a race coming up and they're like nervous about the race too. They're like, God, I don't know if I'm ready for this race, because usually that's taper time and they're not running very much. I say, go look in, because I use Training Peaks for my runners. I tell them, go look in your Training Peaks log, or if you don't have Training Peaks, use whatever you use, Strava, your Garmin, Core, whatever app you use. Go look back at your previous training and the weeks and all the miles you put in, all the time, all those workouts. Look at that workout that you nailed. Like, just remind yourself that you're ready. You put in the work. You did that, day by day steps. And remind yourself, yeah, that you're ready. And yeah.
Very important. And then I have one last question, and we can kind of wrap things up. This has
Hmm.
been a really great
Yeah.
conversation. I appreciate all of it. Uh, you stay present, you look back and give yourself that, like almost like validation of where, why you should
Hmm.
be like confident. But then something your runners have talked to me about is that you have this amazing ability to seem fresh, even at mile 200. Like you can pop up out of the chair, not only like physically, but mentally, you somehow
Hmm.
seem like you're fresh, even after you've been out there for 3 days. Now, is it, are you faking it? Like, what I mean? Or is it like, like, is that sort of is that a mindset or,
Hmm.
um, I got to think there's some sort of like energy there that like, how do you keep yourself positive and cheery and just pop up out of the
Hmm.
chair? Like, yes, I'm going to keep going. It's mile 212. Let's go.
Hmm.
How do you do it?
I think it is a mindset, and it is like, don't give your, I just don't, I guess I lied because I said I did want to quit at one point, but you just don't give yourself that option. You're like, I, I just got to do it. You just have to do the work, do the thing. And I guess that kind of goes back a little bit to like sobriety too, is like, you just have to like, not drink. You just have to get up out of this chair and get going. And I kind of think like, it's like, well, I don't have any other option, And again, if the longer I sit here, it's going to take me longer to finish. So I might as well just like get up and get going. Um, so I think it's a mindset, um, not and staying positive, not focusing on the negatives. Um, if my legs hurt, it's like, okay, well, I'll just hobble out here. We'll just keep walking and I'll eat the sandwich as I walk away. Yeah, so mindset, um, yeah, just focusing on the positive. Um, yeah, I think I don't know. I think there's also a little bit of maybe faking it too. Like you're tricking your brain, like, we can do this, we can keep going. Um, but it is funny in any race, no matter the distance, whether it's a 200, 100, marathon, 5K, it's like you're always like super tired at the end. You feel like you get to the finish, you're like, God, I couldn't run another mile, At mile 100, you make it like you're running really well at mile 100, and then as soon as you stop, then you're like, your body's like, it's like your body knows you're done, and then you're like, you can't run anymore, and you're tired. Um, so I think it's a way we just trick our body, and our brain tells our body we have to go until we get to this point, so you don't give it an option to quit, and it keeps going. And then once you get to that point, your body's like, okay, finally, like we're done. We're done. Brain, body is done. I don't know. It's crazy. Again, no matter what distance it is, I feel like the 5K, 200 mile, when you get to that finish, it's like your body just knows we're done.
I think you have an amazing ability to stay just like in the like in the moment and in the sort of the experience you're in. Like I'm doing this 200. I'm doing it, and like I'm not like thinking about quitting. I'm just like,
Yeah,
this is what it is, and I'm going to make it work. And if I got a
kind
problem,
of
I'm going to
like,
solve it. And
yeah,
yeah, the horses they put their
kind of
little they
like
put the
horse with the
blinders on.
blinders on, right? That's what I kind of feel like, especially as you get towards the end, like kind of staying focused, like don't think about anything else, and just focus on just getting to that finish line. So I think especially as you get closer to the finish line, it's a little bit easier to like kind of hone in on that because it becomes a little bit more real too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's so good, and so many things that I think people can learn from this, whether it's in their training, in their racing, and even I
Mhm.
think, I mean, I've been a runner for most of my life, and I think that like most of these lessons that we learn in running and how we become more adaptable and tough, and
Mhm.
they apply to all aspects of our lives. Like we
Oh
can be better
gosh.
people by like learning these things and practicing them.
Mhm. For sure. I think like that's what running has taught me, so many parallels just in life and how to react to situations in life that come up and make me more adaptable to things. Because I don't like change. I like routine, and life is not that way. So it's made me be able to accept when something goes wrong in life, how to pivot, change. I think COVID was like a perfect example of that too, when we had COVID and having to like, okay, well, everything just got, upside down, but learning how to pivot, change. And so I think that's what running has helped a lot. Just me become just a better person overall.
Here, I totally
Yeah.
agree. Well, I think it's a good place to wrap it up. And is
Hmm.
there anything, any wisdom you want to impart on runners or anyone listening that we haven't talked about? We've covered a lot of really good
Hmm.
stuff, so I'm not putting you on the spot here. But if there's anything
Yeah.
I haven't asked about that do you think we should talk about? Feel free.
You know, yeah, I can't think of anything off of the top of my head. I think just, you know, don't be scared to go for those big, scary goals. I tell my runners, like, um, if they are running a race and I'm like, well, what's your goal time? And they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, but I want to, I'm thinking about this one, and I'm here to go for those big scary goals. Or if you want to do a 200 and you're not sure if you can do it, like I'm here for it. I'm here for the going for the big scary things and trying your best. And if you do it, great. If you don't do it, you're still gonna get a fun like adventure and experience out of it in the
And
process.
you're gonna
And you're
learn a
gonna
lot.
learn about yourself. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my last tip. Like go for the big scary goal, do the thing, just try, just try.
Awesome. Love
Mhm.
it. Well,
Yeah,
Alicia, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for
of
being
course.
a great coach with Team and Run. And yeah, if people want to reach you, they can find you on our website.
Mhm.
Also, we'll link maybe what's the best way if someone wanted to reach out to you, like on social or wanted to connect with you?
Yeah, probably my Instagram. I think my Instagram is Leasha24, Leasha 24.
Okay,
So they
we'll
can
link
send me
that
direct
in there.
message, yeah, direct messages on there, or just via the Team RunRun page. You can send an email to me there.
Perfect. All right.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Alicia.
Yeah, no problem.